All right, welcome back to the Lindroth Hockey Podcast. We are in partnership with the Black and Gold Hockey Productions, LLC. You are here with co-host, father and son duo, Andrew and Jim Lindroth. Dad, how you doing today?
Great, doing good. Andrew, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. We've got a pretty awesome special guest today we're excited to introduce. So today we have Justin Hodgman. So Justin began playing juniors in the OHL from 2006 until 2009. Suiting up for the Erie Otters and making the odd appearances in the IHL during the time for the Fort Wayne Komets. After graduating from junior hockey, Justin developed his play in the minor pro leagues in North America, such as the ECHL, AHL, and IHL, for over the next 2 years, and then played in the SM Liga League the following year, and then the KHL until 2014. Justin finally received the call he'd always dreamed of and suited up for his first piece of NHL action with the Arizona Coyotes during the 2014-2015 season, and later finished the remainder of that season in the AHL with the Portland Pirates. For the next 5 years, Justin continued playing professionally all around the world in various leagues and is currently signed to play for the first time in the EIHL for Sheffield. So without further ado, please welcome our special guest, Justin Hodgman. So Justin, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I know it probably sounds like your mother wrote that for you, so sorry about that. That's a long one.
Yeah, it's a long one, man. And it's funny sitting here thinking, guys, just listening to it and kind of quickly going over all the memories of all those places. It's been quite the journey, brother.
I bet.
Yeah, you are the journeyman for sure. So, Justin, I'll take the first question. You played for the Otters all 4 years in the OHL. You ended up turning into quite a bit of a goal scorer, recording over 80 points and 60 plus games in one season. So, what was your experience building with the Erie Otters and all the players and staff over the years? What was that like for you?
Yeah, I mean, that was a pretty, obviously that was my longest tenure in my career. And there were options to leave throughout my time as I was, playing as well as I was. And unfortunately, our team wasn't the greatest. So there was always opportunity to leave, but I absolutely loved my time at Erie. I had a special bond with my teammates, a special bond with my coaches, and especially my billet family. And I didn't want to go anywhere. There were always great leaders to learn from: Ryan O'Mara, Mike Blunden, Vince Scott, Sean O'Connor. I mean, I could keep going. So I learned from those guys right from the get-go I saw them play as a rookie, and I did not play very much at all as a rookie. I was a fourth liner back when fourth lines barely played. Now it's top to bottom. The fourth line is, difference makers, and you see in the NHL playoffs how big of a difference the fourth line can make now. But back then, the fourth line did not play. And so I just learned watching those guys. Thankfully, as I grew, the opportunities came and the goals came, and getting to play with better players and whatnot. So it ended up turning into a pretty good junior career.
Yeah, so I noticed your third year in the OHL, and I know it also happened in your final year as well, which we'll get to, but you did finish the season, I would assume, and then I don't know if you were called up or if you were signed by the Fort Wayne Komets in the IHL. You played 11 regular season games and then joined them for their postseason run, which ended up putting up 14 points in 13 games. So what was the story of you joining that team last minute and then doing it again the following year?
Yeah, so it's actually kind of a funny story. I was set to go to Norfolk back when Norfolk was in the AHL. I was actually going to stay with the general manager at his house. They called me, and it's kind of that thing where I was undrafted, and Tampa Bay was kind of, checking the waters, and that's who their NHL team was at the time. And so I was all set to go to Norfolk. And then almost, I think it was the second last season or weekend of the regular season, I got a phone call saying that Tampa Bay essentially wanted me nowhere near their organization because they came and watched me have one of the worst games I've ever played. And they pulled it all out from under me. They said, "Nope, not going to happen. We're not going to waste our time on this guy." And that was a very humbling experience for me as a 19-year-old. I was extremely excited to obviously go there, go to the AHL. And at that point, all the other spots on other teams where guys were going to from juniors were pretty much taken up. And my assistant coach in Erie, Peter Sidorkowitz, said, hey, listen, I used to play in Fort Wayne. It's a great city. I know the ownership group, and they're looking for a player. Would you want to go? And I had no idea where Fort Wayne was. I had no idea what the IHL was. This is like a 6-league team. That was kind of like a startup team, not affiliated with anybody, almost like an independent league. And I said, yeah, why not? I want to keep playing. I want to play pro, and that's how I ended up here. And now I live in Fort Wayne. I met my wife here. I got 2 kids here. So it wasn't in the plans at that point, but it honestly turned out to be one of the best decisions I ever made.
Yeah, and so to follow up, then you did do that same thing during the 08 and 09 season, which ended up being your final season as well in the OHL. You posted once again 12 points, 11 games. So what was it like coming back for that second postseason run? And was it weird trying to adjust that new locker room and staff again, even though, I mean, you were there the year before, but maybe just some changes? You didn't spend too much time with them. I mean,
Yeah.
how weird was that?
It was seamless. The leadership group, Guy Dupuis, Colin Chalk, Kevin Bertram, PC Druin, and also I could go on there as well. Leo Thomas was awesome at that point. And then they knew I was coming back. They were pushing to have me back. Everybody was, and I was as well. Now, on the flip side, on that second season, I had opportunities to go to the AHL and like multiple ones that I could pick from. And I remember talking with the Cleveland Monsters and telling them essentially, they were like, hey, we wanted to come in, play the last, 5 games of the regular season. And I said, sorry, I'm going to go play in Fort Wayne. They said, the IHL? You're going to turn down the AHL for the IHL, like the independent IHL? And I said, listen, I got a young family. Again, I know the leadership group. Here in Fort Wayne, on a regular season night, we get 7,000 to 8,000 fans a night. When I won that championship game the first year, we had 12,000 fans there.
Wow.
So it was a no-brainer for me to come back that second season and turn down those AHL teams. And then I did it again for a third time the following year. We won all 3. We three-peated. And at that point, I was in the AHL. That was my first pro season. I was actually playing for the Marlies. They were going to send me to Reading in the East Coast Hockey League for their playoff run. And I told Dallas Aikens, I said, hey, can you assign me to Fort Wayne? He goes, are you serious? I said, yeah, please. Will you, assign me to Fort Wayne? It's my home. And I did the whole thing again. It's almost pretty comical, actually.
Yeah. So before I ask my question, Justin, you mentioned Peter Sidorkowitz. So you're talking the old goalie from Hartford?
Yeah, I played in Hartford, played in Ottawa, and he was my assistant coach and head coach in Erie while I was there.
Good. Assuming you spoke highly of him, good guy. I mean, I just remember him. I tried to teach Andrew here a little old school hockey, and he was, I remember him with Hartford. So nice guy, obviously. Good coach.
Pardon me?
Good coach.
Yeah, great coach, great guy. I haven't run into him in my career since, but I would love to just sit down and catch up and he kept things light for us, as the assistant coach there, and stepped into a pretty tough head coach job with the team we had. It didn't work out very well. But to talk about his character, when he got fired actually as his head coach, they kept him around to be an assistant coach because of how much he meant to the organization and the players. So nothing but good things about Peter.
So you keep getting these opportunities while you're in junior and finishing junior. What was it like to receive your first pro contract? Because you're undrafted, not that doesn't mean anything, but undrafted. What was it like? And was it Toledo that you signed your first pro contract?
Yeah, it was the two-way between Rockford and Toledo.
Okay, so what was that like to finally, put the ink on the paper and you're a pro player?
Yeah, no, it felt great at that time. It was honestly probably another piece of humble pie. Because after my 19-year-old season in the OHL, there was, rumblings about obviously undrafted. I actually got a phone call on draft day from the LA Kings telling me to expect to hear my name called. They had 2 picks in the 7th round. So the last round of my last draft year possible after having a great season. And they had back-to-back picks. And I'm sitting there and another 19-year-old goes. and then they traded the second pick after that. So that didn't feel great. But there was a bunch of opportunities to go to NHL training rookie camps. I ended up picking Minnesota. They offered me a contract in the AHL back when they had in Houston. And I decided to go back for my junior year to kind of dominate and earn an NHL contract opposed to an AHL contract. That was kind of my plan. Plan didn't go as well as I had hoped. In my 20-year-old year in the OHL, didn't earn an NHL contract, and that's how I ended up in Rockford and Toledo. And then that's where the grind kind of started. But I was obviously thankful for any opportunity to get going, and Rockford actually made it happen.
So, I mean, we're a little bit familiar with that because we're talking ECHL at the moment. We're familiar with kind of what the pay structure could be from the smallest to the largest and making a AHL salary and all that stuff. But when does players, when do you feel that you need some sort of like an agent or a guidance to, do you need it when you was getting to the ECHL, or is that going to be a later on deal? Like, when does a up and coming hockey player that's now a pro, you probably don't need an agent, maybe you do, maybe you're not. I mean, what is it? What's the process?
So right around there is when I really needed help. Like, what's the best when you're making that transition? What's the best team to go to? Who are the prospects that I'm going to be playing against? How are they with their rookies in the system? All that stuff. And my agent at this time was actually Kyle Dubas, the GM of the league. And he was unbelievable. He was an up and coming agent at that time. Obviously, he's doing unbelievable things for himself and the organization as well with the Leafs now. But I was extremely thankful for all his help. But yeah, so we actually, we chose Rockford, and Toledo was a new team, hockey town, extremely exciting opportunity, so that's when you want to start, right when you're getting all those calls, what training camp are we going to go to, and what's the best fit.
Yeah, so that first season, though, when you played professionally, you only played with the Toledo Walleye about half the season, and you were called up to play for the Toronto Marlies of the AHL. So at that point, when you were called up and doing well in the American Hockey League, I mean, what were you feeling pretty confident that the NHL goal was in reach at that point? I mean, what was your mindset during that time?
Yep, still in reach for sure. I actually got traded to Toronto, so because I was under contract with Rockford. I couldn't get called up anywhere else. Now, a lot of guys now are under contract in the ECHL with just the coast teams. When you're under contract with just the coast teams, you can get called up anywhere. So you can play for every team in the American League that year until they put you under contract, right? Or else they just call you up on a PTO. So I actually was on an All-Star break. I drove back to Erie to see my billet family on All-Star break, and my general manager called me, and I thought I was getting called up, and he goes, "We traded you to Toronto." Just because I was kind of stuck in Toledo. Rockford had a pretty good team, and Toronto was struggling at the time and was looking for a little help. So they just traded my rights to Toronto, and Toronto called me up right away. And then I put the coast in my rearview mirror and was with Toronto for a year and a half, and it was great.
So from 2010, 2011, you grinded out in the AHL and the East Coast League. And then let's fast forward to your 5-year tenure in Russia. You played for the SM, I guess it's Liga League for a year, and then the KHL for the next 4 seasons. So here's a question. We've had on, I don't know if you've ever run into David Ling. He used to play over there in the KHL, and a few other guests, but what was it like over there in the KHL?
Yeah, so sorry not to correct you, but I was there for 2 years.
Okay.
It looks a lot longer than it was because I ended up playing for 3 teams. And that first year, that's the SM Liga, that was Finland.
Finland. Okay.
Yeah. So, you talked earlier about, fighting for the dream of the NHL. When I left for Finland after my second year in Toronto, it was almost like, all right, that's kind of it. Like usually when you go over to Europe, at least in my mind at that time, I said, it doesn't look like I'm going to crack anybody's lineup. The money for a second or third year guy in the American League to be honest with you, isn't great. And, a lot of guys go to Europe just because of the, financial opportunities. So I left early. A lot of guys don't go until they're, late 20s, and I was 23, and I just decided that I needed to change. And so this team in Finland offered me an okay contract, nothing crazy, but I knew that if I had a good year, that big things could come elsewhere. And I believed in myself at the time. So I had an unbelievable year in Finland with my family. They were over there with me. We ended up losing in the finals, but the team that I played on the year before almost got relegated. They finished last place and had to win a play-in game just to play in that league, or else they would have been in the second league. So the organization was not in a good place. They had an overhaul. I was one of the players they brought in. We ended up going to the finals. So it was a pretty cool story, and then that propelled me to the KHL. So I had calls from Russia in March, and I ended up signing in Russia for the next season while I was still playing in Finland, which was pretty cool. And then it turned out Paul Maurice was my head coach. He was bringing in Tom Barrasso as the assistant coach, which was just crazy for me. I think Paul Maurice is probably the best coach in the NHL, maybe in the world. The way he deals with players. And then obviously I grew up watching Tom Barrasso and the Penguins. Yeah. So it was a very, very cool experience for me. And then it was the lockout year. My first year was the lockout year. So we had Malkin, Gonchar, Kulemin, Zuccarello, O'Reilly. Our roster was just absolutely ridiculous. And then playing against Datsuk and Ovechkin and Radulov and all those guys. That first year in Russia was that's as good as it gets. That hockey's unbelievable. Wow. So yeah, 2 great years in Russia. My second year, I ended up getting traded for Tim Brent, who was actually played with in Toronto, was one of my captains in Toronto. He wanted out. I did not want out of where I was. I loved where I was, but he wanted out where he was, and the team that he was on kind of asked for me. So it was just a straight switch. And then my team ended up beating me in the first round of playoffs. My former team ended up beating me in the first round of playoffs and then going on to win the championship. So that was a pretty tough pill to swallow. But just beyond thankful for the experience. And I don't know if you guys have ever watched a KHL game, but that hockey is as good as it gets, man. It's great.
Well, and it must have been and I'm not the Finland expert, but most Finnish and Swedish players, they're more finesse and not much grind, just to be general. And then you go to the KHL, where it's, like you just said, a tough league. What was it like for you? Did you have to change your game? Because there's plenty of clips of you, and if our listeners haven't watched any of your fights, you can throw them. You're a tough, physical player. But what was it like going from Finland, and assuming that they're more finesse than in the KHL, where it's rough?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, Dad, because my follow-up question for him was, the one time that Justin eclipsed 100 penalty minutes in a season was in Finland.
Yeah.
So what happened there? I was not expecting that.
Yeah, you know what? So in Europe, they actually hand out, like, when you get a 10 here in North America, it doesn't actually go to your penalty minutes. Like, you get a 10-minute misconduct, it doesn't go to your penalty minutes. Well, over there, they add all to your penalty minutes. So that was a mixture of dealing with European refs and running the mouth a little bit too much. And then they do, especially in Finland, anything after the whistle, they don't want to, like, they want to focus on the hockey over there, right? That's the big thing. So coming over from North America, I was just a little chippy. And so I was picking up 10s left, right, and center. So that's where my penalty minute count went up. But to be honest with you, the Finnish hockey just suited my game more. Bigger ice, like, room to move. I am more of a finesse skilled player. And when you talk about the fights, now I don't win very much, let's be honest. If you're going to go and watch them, but as a bigger skilled guy on the top 2 lines, whenever someone tries to take liberties on my line mates who are typically smaller than I am, I'm the closest big guy that has to do something. So that's where those fights usually come in. The only time I really wanted to fight was when I was a rookie in the OHL and I was trying to get more playing time. So I would go out and fight, and then I'd come back to the playing box after 5 minutes and I get bumped up to the second line because it looks like you're engaged, So really, that's all it was. I did not want to fight. I just knew that I was going to get more playing time when I got back. And then honestly, in the end of my career, it was more just sticking up for my line mates, not going out there looking for anything.
So how do you chirp to all these European and Russian players if if you don't speak their language and they don't speak much English? I mean, what do you do?
It's pretty fun. You just get, it's like broken English, broken Russian, and you can. That's the other thing. You can get away with yelling at the rest because they have no idea what you're saying. So for the most part, but yeah, no, that chirping is, if you know me and anyone who's listened knows that that's a big part of my game, and so it doesn't matter what country I'm in, it's coming.
So any crazy stories coming out of the KHL? We'll just share one and this was, I think, early on when not a lot of Americans went over there.
And this was the Federation.
Or Canadians going over there. David Ling, I think this is early 2000s. He went over there and him and another Canadian were over there, and they would get paid monthly, and it was cash. And they had to hire like gunmen, mafia gunmen to get their money and move it to some other place to put it in a safe. It seemed like this crazy, their apartments would get robbed every month. What was your experience like, Justin?
Yeah, no, so I heard all those stories. Everyone's heard them. By the time I got there, and I think this came down from, honestly, Putin wanting to have the second best league in the world and have it on better standing. They really cleaned up the league before I got there, because I heard all those same stories. Now it's still Russia. There's still a whole bunch of stuff going on, behind the scenes. But by the time I got there, it was cleaned up. I wasn't scared for anything for 1 second. I wasn't worried about my money. I wasn't worried about my safety. We did have a driver in the two cities that I was in, but we also had a car. So if we wanted to go, so it was myself, Zuccarello, and Cal O'Reilly, and then Ryan O'Reilly as well. And we just essentially hired a driver that would pick us up in the morning and take us to and from, and then that way we didn't have to worry. Honestly, the craziest thing was the Russian roads. I don't know if you heard that story, but driving in Russia is one of the scariest things you can do. it's just a complete free-for-all. So that's why we hired a driver, so there was no issues. But like I said, we had the car as well. So, none of those crazy, scared stories. There was definitely some cash payments. But we felt safe enough just to take it straight to the bank after practice. But I've heard stories of guys getting cash before practice and then taping it underneath their equipment. Like during practice, because they didn't feel safe having it in the locker room during oh yeah, that's the stuff that was before me that I was kind of preparing for. And then I got there, and it was honestly, it was great. I had one issue at the end of my last season, my second season, getting paid on my last paycheck. That's honestly pretty typical for a lot of places you go to. At the end of the year, you usually want to make sure you get paid before you leave.
Yeah. So speaking of pay, then what was the pay rate like compared to the KHL and to the AHL and ECHL? Because you hear that they get paid pretty well over there.
Yeah, it's really good.
Like double, because you said the AHL, you said second year you don't get paid nearly as much at that point.
I was making 50,000 Canadian in the American League, 50,000 euros my first year in England. Not England, Finland. And it's a significant jump. I don't know if I want to say the number.
No, we're not looking for a number, but
interesting that
it's interesting.
I could say safely more than 10 times what I was making.
Wow.
Because we hear the old stories of the old IHL of some players, in the early 90s would actually go to the IHL compared to the AHL, because the IHL is almost paying as much as the NHL.
Yeah.
So
that was the old IHL. That's not the IHL that I played in. The IHL that I played in kind of came back around and was essentially like the SPHL now, or the Central League. That's why guys go to Russia. I mean, they got a whole lot of money over there. I think our owner was worth $18 billion. And we would get 3,000 fans a game paying like the equivalent of like $3. Like they're not making money. They just want to have a really good league. Like Malkin was making $9 million for the one season I was there. It's coming like in the lockout, like absolutely ridiculous. Our goalie was a Russian goalie making 5.5. Mazyakin, if you don't know the name, go look up his elite prospects. Unbelievable player, like probably the best Russian-born player to never leave the country. Absolutely could have played in the NHL. Extremely decorated and on the world stage and the Russian stage. He was making $5 million. Like our payroll, I think, was $55 million.
Wow. Well, yeah, and you hear Kirill Kaprizov, the rookie stud over in Minnesota, he got offered $9 million contract over 8 years, and he rejected it and is saying he might go back to the KHL because they're offering more money. So I was just always curious. They must be offering way more money.
He would go to St. Petersburg. They bring in 18,000 fans a night. Unbelievable city, unbelievable fan base, unbelievable team. Compete for a championship every year. The owner is best friends with Putin, and which it's a big deal over there, obviously.
I bet, yeah.
It's just stupid money that they're throwing at guys. There's no doubt in my mind Kaprizov would make in the like $10-15 million if he went back to St. Petersburg, which I'm sure he will one day.
Yeah.
But we're lucky to have him here in North America for sure. He's a thrill.
Yeah.
So now this brings, the most interesting part of your story. So after the KHL experience, you end up going to the training camp for Arizona. You got invited to that.
Yep.
And you actually make the team. What was that like, and what was the process? And we should ask this as well. With your time around there, I'm not sure if it's going to coincide with his, but we just had on the Arizona coach and Arizona scout and then assistant director of scouting, Jeff Toohey. I don't know if he might have played a part in a scouting of you. I'm not sure. We didn't know this when we had Jeff on the show last week, but we would have asked him. But anyway, what was it like what was the procedure to getting into the training camp?
Yeah, so I had my 2 years in Russia. My family didn't come. I had 2 young kids and a wife, and I had felt like I had put myself in a good financial position, which was my plan going over to Europe. Like I told you, I'd kind of given up on the NHL. But with my play over there, my agent said, listen, teams are interested. Like you're getting, like the dream's not over. There's interest. Now, I was 26, there's not a whole lot of interest, and they had, scouting years of scouting on me in the American League and the OHL. So they weren't completely surprised. So there was I was in the system, you know what I mean? So my agent said, why don't we just take a shot? I got offered $2 million for 2 years to stay in Russia. And I ended up signing a minimum contract in the NHL and then the AHL, a 2-way contract, just to give it a shot. Like I said, I had felt like I was in a good place. And so the way I got my shot was I paid someone to clip all my goals and assists from my time in the KHL. And I just sent it to I sent it to my agent. He sent it to every NHL team. So, because they weren't over there physically watching the games, or I'm sure they weren't tuning in on, they could have pulled it up if they wanted to, but that's the way I did it. I clipped my own videos. I sent it to every NHL team. Arizona bit. They gave me that contract, and I said, why not? Why not try it out? They told me they signed me as a depth player, probably second line American League player, with a chance to make it possibly throughout the year. Really was kind of what was the conversation was. And I said, great, I'll take it. Why not? Let's just try. So I get to training camp, and like I just couldn't stop scoring goals. Like I'm not even like that big of a. I'm not like trying to. I'm not that great of a goal scorer. Like I like scoring goals, but I would much rather have 50 assists than 50 goals. Like I consider myself a playmaker. But for whatever reason, I stepped into my first game at the Staples Center there, an exhibition game, goal and assist. And we shipped over to Anaheim, 2 goals. I went up to Edmonton, didn't play very well, thought I might get cut. They were starting to send guys to the American League, did enough to stick around. Then we went to San Jose. goal in the first period, goal in the shootout. And it's just like, that's when you're there, you're just kind of trying to give them a reason to keep you around. Like you just don't give them a reason to send you down. If you're scoring goals, and then that's obviously a good thing. So it came down to me and another player. He was a defenseman, I was a forward. Everyone had been sent to the American League, and I could not believe I was in this position. Like, the hotel was full of 50 guys, for training camp, and it's down to 2. So I called my buddy, Matt Snavy. We were good friends throughout training camp. And I said, hey, you want to go grab lunch? And he goes, no, I'm checking out. They just cut me. You made the team. And I was like, what? Like that's how I got the call. Really, you think of like the GM calling you and all that. No, he goes, yeah. He goes, no, yeah. He goes, I just got cut. You made the team. And I was like, holy shit! Like, wow, that was an unbelievable feeling, obviously. And then soon after, I got the call from Don Maloney, and then after that, it was just kind of that whole whirlwind thing that everyone talks about. Just dreams come true.
So take us through your first goal, which is pretty good. It's against Florida, right? Against Luongo.
Yeah.
And you score right off of the left post, really. Just right in the right place at the right time. So obviously, I'm assuming instinct takes over, but when the puck goes in the net, I'm sure you're just like, holy shit, I just scored my first real NHL goal. Or since you scored like something, I don't know, would you score like 11 goals in your preseason? Like you're talking about?
I think it was 5 goals in 4 games. I'd love 11. 11 would be great.
It was a lot.
It was, like you said, you just couldn't, but were you actually, obviously this meant more, but was it just like an extension of, hey, this is what I've been doing the last few weeks or was this like, this is it?
No, not at all, actually. So I ended up making the team, going through the whole, probably another week of, the whole introduction phase. And even Dave Tippett told me, he goes like, Hodgie, I had no idea who you were before training camp, like at all. Like, no, like I remember we were in the golf outing, and I forget what city we were in. And he goes, hey, welcome to the team. This is my first conversation with him. He goes, I'm not going to lie, I had no idea who you are. but I hope you can really score goals like you can score goals. So I ended up getting healthy scratch for the first 2 games. So like complete elation, making the team. This is unbelievable. Sit the first game, man, that sucks. Sit the second game, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to get my shot here soon. Like I have to. I get sent to the minors before I play my first game. And then once you get sent down, there's absolutely zero guarantee that you're coming back up. Like I was confident that I would hopefully get the first call when it came. But if you go to the American League and you shit the bed, that's kind of, you can get buried real quick. And I went to the American League and I shit the bed. I played 3 games, I had no points, and I think I was -5. So I said, that's it, I'm done, it's over. Like I screwed it up. And crazy enough, David Moth broke his hand, and we knew someone was going to get the call. We knew they needed a forward. And I think 12:30, I was in Portland in a hotel. My phone rang. It was Ray Edwards, was our head coach, and he goes, "Hey, pack your bags. You got a flight in the morning. You're going to Arizona. You're playing tomorrow night." And I go, wow, I'm pretty surprised after my weekend. And she goes, yeah, me too. Because I swear to God, he goes, yeah, me too. I was like, thanks, coach. Like, great. We didn't have a great relationship to begin with, him and I, unfortunately. But he goes, yeah, me too. And I didn't care. I said, all right, whatever. Call my old man and try to get some sleep. And then, the long flight from Portland I had to go Portland, Boston, all the way to Scottsdale. But yeah, so then played that night. Had scored a power play goal, was not on the power play to begin with, but I was playing great. I was honestly having a really, really good game. I drew the penalty that put us on the power play. We were down by 1 in the 3rd period. And Tip kicks me in the ass. He goes, like, you're going. I forget whose spot I took on the power play. He goes, you're going. I said, what? I didn't know. Like, I know how to play the power play, but I don't know what's going on. And he said, just go stand here, and that's your job. And then, make whatever play that you think, use your hockey IQ. So it was just the perfect storm. I mean, Yandel is one of the best defensemen at getting shots through. Got a great shot through, head up. He was climbing there, moving across the blue line. And then Korpakowski just kind of picked up the rebound and tapped it back door, which is where I was supposed to stand. And I had 4x6 wide open net. Like, could not miss, which I've missed actually in before and after in different scenarios, but 4x6 and then yeah, after that it was like, I don't know, pure, just your emotions just pour out and take over, and skated into the glass and jumped into the glass. We went overtime, we won. I got one of the stars. It was like that fairy tale stuff.
So did you ever have a moment maybe during that first game, maybe when you first walked in the locker room, where you're able to look around and go, man, I made it to the
Yeah,
NHL?
it was pretty crazy. I mean, I got there a little bit early so I could have some time to myself in the locker room, but like there's so much to do when you're there. There's so much going on. And so like I didn't really have my first holy crap moment until I got to my car after the game and like driving home. And then they play in Glendale. So you got about a 30-minute drive up the highway to Scottsdale, where most guys stay. And that was pretty cool. I had a ton of text messages. Obviously, I didn't look at my phone. I didn't call anybody. I didn't listen to music. I just like took that 30 minutes to kind of reflect. And it was absolutely a special moment. Like I told you, giving up earlier in my career on the NHL, getting the shot, making the team, getting sent down, and then finally getting the call and scoring in my first game was pretty special.
And so you continued to play after that, whether it be in the AHL, whether when you returned overseas to play in Europe. What kept you wanting to play professionally?
Yeah, so like the next season, I was signed in St. Louis. Did not go well. I did not play well in Chicago. It was a much harder team to make, and Chicago was going to trade me in January. And I said, you know what? My family was living in Fort Wayne at the time. They weren't with me in Chicago, and I said, if I'm going to be in anywhere else in the U.S. that's not in Chicago, I kind of picked St. Louis and their farm team so I could be close to home and drive home and see the kids whenever I wanted to. Wherever I was else in the league, I most likely was not going to be able to do that. So I said, hey, do you mind if we just kind of part ways and rip up this contract? You don't have to find a trading partner. You don't have to take on another contract that you don't want. We can just part ways and I can go back to Europe, because I had a bunch of interest in Europe. So that's just kind of how it goes. I was nowhere near done. I was just, still hitting my stride. And then it was kind of the second time around, Europe wasn't as good as the first time there in Finland and Russia. So Sweden did not work out. I could not adapt to the league. It's a very, very tough skating league, obviously, with the Swedes, and their systems were different. And I honestly just struggled. And then I went back to Finland, and it just wasn't as good as the first time around. You know what I mean? Like there was all these expectations, and the team was different, and I was older, and just didn't perform the way I did the first time. So expectations were higher this time, and I just struggled a little bit. So I was just trying to find my place, and kind of bounced around since, and looking for different opportunities, and yeah, so, and I'm still going.
Yeah,
exactly. So you just you signed a deal with Sheffield over in the UK. Tell us about how that came about. And I think they didn't play with COVID, that league that they're in, but you probably would have played with them a year ago, right?
That's exactly it. So I was like, we didn't have a deal done by any means, but I was talking with Foxy, the head coach, Aaron Fox, last summer, because Sheffield, I've always wanted to play in the English league, and Sheffield, from what I've heard, is the place to be. The fans are great. The great coach, played the game, knows the game, players coach. Great city, good setup. I just heard nothing but great things. So we were talking, and we had an idea of what the contract was going to look like. But him being as the guy he is, Foxy said, I don't think we're going to play. Like, with how bad COVID was, spreading through the UK. He goes, honestly, like, I would sign you to a contract right now, but it looks like we're not going to play. And then you'd have to go and find something else. So he said, if you have something else ready, he said, I'd take it. And which was cool of him to do that before they had actually canceled the season. That's how I ended up in Budapest in Hungary, which, I'm not gonna lie to you, I didn't even know they played hockey in Hungary before I signed in Budapest. But I was on Elite Prospects one day, and I saw Keaton Allenby's name pop up, and it said, Fradi, Ferencváros, and I messaged him on Instagram because I knew him from playing against them. I said, man, what are you doing playing in Hungary? The guy's got 200 NHL games, and like the Hungarian league, I just didn't know even existed. I'm not gonna lie to you. And he goes, I'm living in Budapest. They called me and they offered me X. And so I jumped all over it. And I said, if you get me what you're getting, I said, I'll come. I was like, talk to the coach. So the coach was like, right away, boom, this happened fast. Are you serious? Yep, I'm serious. Okay, we're going to do this, blah, blah. And we got it done. And the hockey's great. Honestly, the hockey's great. They worked unbelievably hard over there. There's a really good amount of skill on the high end. The top 6 forwards on every team have a ton of skill. So I was extremely thankful for my time in Budapest. We were on a lockdown, which was tough, but the city's amazing. I made a ton of good friends. So I was really, really, really thankful for that. And then but I kind of always had Sheffield, in my sights. So as soon as the year, even before the year was done, I was reaching out to Foxy and he said, let's just, pump the brakes. We'll find out what the salary cap is, make sure we're playing, which they were confident they were. And then once they released the salary cap and he knew what he could pay guys and he was ready to make his team, it was done quick. So, and I couldn't be more excited. I can't wait to get there.
Yeah. So how is your game? I mean, every player's game, if they have a long career, changes. Their game has to change. So how has your game changed over the years, and what's kind of your role going into Sheffield?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm going to try and bring my leadership role, with my experience in games played. That is obviously always expected of a 33-year-old guy, but they have such a good core leadership group there already. It's not like a huge necessity, obviously, I'd say at all. So I'll just try and add what I can to their already set core group. And then I'll just be expected to contribute, to make plays, to score goals. I'm assuming I'll play on. Well, it doesn't matter what line I play on. You know what I mean? Our team is extremely deep. If you look at our roster and the guys that they are signing and haven't even announced that they're signing yet, our roster is going to be extremely, extremely good. The hockey in England keeps getting better. So I'll just honestly, it'll be the same thing. Not much has changed. I won't be expected to fight. I know they do love their fights over there. So who knows? I usually end up either breaking my hand or losing. Like it never goes well when I fight. So try and stay away from that, and honestly just and contribute on a regular basis. Because over there's no nights off. So their regular season is their championship. So here, obviously there's the regular season and there's, 8 weeks of playoffs. Well, over there you play, I think it's 32 games, and then that's the one you want to win. It's like soccer. That's like the English Premier League. So if you fall behind in the race early, it's tough. It's not like you get to go 500 and then battle through playoffs. The playoff starts on day one. Like you understand what I mean? So it's just, there's no nights off, and I am, it's going to be a very different experience for me, but I'm so excited to see what it's like. I keep on hearing about how much better the hockey's getting. I keep on hearing about the Sheffield fans and the town, and so I am extremely, extremely excited for this opportunity.
So when you sign a contract or just about ready to sign a contract with a team, does the GM or the coach, I mean, obviously you said you're talking to Fox, do they kind of give you expectations, kind of give you an idea of what they're looking for? Or do they just in general talk about, hey, we love your style of play, we feel you're going to be a good fit on our team? How specific do they get, or non-specific do they get?
I'd say earlier in my career, it's probably more specific, you know what I mean? Like just laying out the expectations. But at this point in my career, they know what they're getting. And I know what's expected. So those conversations, I'm sure we will have that conversation. I'm sure there'll be a meeting with Foxy before the year, and you get put on a line and you get put, you kind of set the goals. But like I said, at this point in my career, they know what they're getting and why they're signing me. And so it's just kind of, the change and the growth throughout your career that you kind of, what's expected of you, and they know too.
So it's August 2nd. We're recording this August 2nd. When do you have to be over there and get settled?
No flight booked yet, but it looks like it's going to be anywhere from September 6th to the 10th. So just starting to try and ramp up now, skating here in Fort Wayne. I'm a skills coach in town, so I'm working with younger kids, and then I get to do my own thing as well. I get the ice, which is nice. And then so September 10th or 6th to 10th, and then we get right into it. Like when you go to Russia, you're there for 2 months before you play your first game.
Oh, wow.
Our first exhibition game is September 19th. So it'll be a quick training camp and right to work, which I love.
Cool.
Nice.
Do you know if it's able or easy to watch here in America? Like ability to watch EIHL?
Yeah, I imagine it will be easier. So this will be the first English-speaking league that I played in overseas, obviously, which is great. So I know like my family and friends are extremely excited to be able to follow it with much ease and not trying to Google Translate, which can be hilarious when you're trying to. So I'm assuming that, and their social media from the league to the teams is like top notch. So I have to imagine that there will be available streaming services for sure.
Well, the fans are going to be great. Just we mentioned this off air. We have a portion of our listeners from the UK, and only because we've had North American players that have played over there, and they somehow still follow their favorite players, even though they might be retired. And they happen to find our podcast with their players, so they're definitely a loyal, I think, a deep fan base.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you should do well over there.
Yeah,
absolutely. Like I said, the outreach on social media from the organization and then their following has been overwhelming, honestly. And so I expect great things. They do have a very, very loyal fan base. It's their whole. I'll say soccer, football for the UK fans, but
right.
When they grab onto a team, that's like life for them. That's their everything. And I think that they bring that to the hockey environment as well, which us as players are extremely lucky to have and what we play for. Honestly, I keep saying it, but I cannot wait to get going. I think this is going to be a very, very good year.
Cool.
Lightning round questions. So we're just going to ask fast questions, and you can give us a name, or you could tell us a story. It's up to you. We're going to kind of leave the talking to you. So here we go. We're going to make you think a little bit, and you might have to make a split that second decision. A lot of guys are like, come on, I can't pick one.
Yeah.
But anyway, here we go.
All right.
Which league or team had the craziest fan base?
Krefeld. In Germany.
Favorite arena that you played in, including OHL, everything.
Favorite arena?
Yes.
It'd be here in Fort Wayne.
Okay.
Which arena, because you've been through so many, had the worst ice conditions?
Probably the Ricoh Coliseum in Toronto, actually. Terrible.
Wow, interesting. Was there a specific player, any name that pops up in your head that had an innate ability to get under your skin?
Wait. Which player? Oh, on the other team? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking teammates.
No, not roommates.
I could have went another way. To get under my skin, Ruutu in Finland.
Ruutu.
Hate that guy.
Yeah.
The toughest goalie to play against?
Toughest goalie to play against? Nagel in Toledo. And I played for Fort Wayne when they were in the East Coast League. I couldn't score against the guy. Could not score. Like 4 breakaways, can't score.
So excluding the KHL, which European league paid the best so far?
Sweden.
Now, when you played over there, because I don't want to get into this discussion because we're running on time, but when you're talking like Sweden and Finland, and this is like one of their top tier teams, because don't they have a lot of different tiers for pro leagues?
Oh yeah. No, there's a ton of second, third, fourth leagues over there. Thankfully, I've been in the top one since for. No, yeah, I'm going to be in the top ones. There's been interest from second leagues, and the second league in Germany is good. The second league in Finland's okay. The second league in Sweden really, really good. And I've had opportunities to go, but thankfully I've always been in the top tier.
Cool. Craziest or most embarrassing thing to happen to you during a game?
Scoring on my own net on national TV. I was back checking. I was playing for Toronto against. Do you want the story?
Yeah, love that.
Yeah. So it was my first CBC game, which is televised all throughout Canada. Back checking. We were in Hamilton. Guy took a shot from the right wing and ended up on my stick in the slot and facing my own net. And I was trying to just whip the puck into the left corner, just like quickly get it out of danger. And instead of putting it in the corner, I buried it in our own net, like ripped it. And I just, yeah, it was as embarrassing as it gets.
So is there a video on YouTube somewhere where people bring this up yearly?
Why would you bring that up?
Yeah. The video's got to exist. I haven't seen it, thankfully. Like it was bad. Like there, you know what? If you want to see it's the exact same thing Patrick Laine did. Remember that when he scored?
Yeah, when he just buried it,
ripped it. Like I'm not joking. I buried this rebound. Like it's awful. Like I got to the bench and Dallas Aikens was like, "What are you doing?" It's like, I don't know. Like I wasn't trying to score on our own net.
I mean, that had to be the skate of shame, right? Going back to the bench, going like.
Yeah, I mean, do your teammates heckle you the whole time?
They kind of know that you like feel shame, like it's bad.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and we're a veteran team too. And I was a rookie, or maybe my second year, and they're just like, what are you doing? I messed up, man. What do you want me to do? I wasn't trying. Whatever.
That's hysterical.
Yeah, it's bad, really bad.
So, excluding, I would assume probably your first NHL game and maybe scoring that goal and everything. But other than that, what has been your favorite hockey memory in your career so far?
My triple overtime game winner here in Game 7 when we won the championship. I was 19 in Fort Wayne. My first year, I was 19. We were down 3-1 in the series, came back Game 7, and it was triple overtime, and I scored in like just like 20 seconds into the triple overtime to win it. So it was like 12:30 at night. That was pretty cool.
That's awesome. Awesome stuff.
Wow. Well, Justin, we can't thank you enough for being on the podcast and for your time. And we wish you well, and we'll certainly be following Sheffield and all your adventures over there.
Awesome. Great. Hey, thanks for having me, guys. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, man.
So we'll pause this and we'll say goodbye off air.
All right, Justin Hodgman, man. Yeah, you love having the quote unquote what he said off the air suitcase player. Guys have played everywhere, but I feel like that kind of gets a negative connotation to the name, journeyman or a suitcase player. But there's nothing bad with playing everywhere and getting that experience, man. It's pretty interesting stuff.
We have on quite a bit of our guests are guys that have traveled all around, and in the long run, I think when you're looking back on your career, I mean, you've got the opportunity to travel the world, unless you're on a, World Cup team. But even at that, you're only really going one place, and he's been playing all over. And now he gets to go over in England, and we want to give a shout out to our UK listeners here, and you're getting a good guy. And I'm sure that they're going to be well introduced to Hodgie there. And we wish him the best of luck, and we will have him back on. Don't know how we'll do it. Maybe after the season when he's back on the normal time zone.
Yeah, I was about to say, because now I'm thinking about a UK time zone, and I don't know how their internet is there. It's not like we've.
Well, it's not like a third world country, Andrew.
Right, but I mean, I don't know. But next week,
what do we got?
We do have, this is for our Bruin fans, especially from the late 90s, early 2000s, Fred Knipscher.
Yes.
He was in the organization for quite some time, but had a cup of coffee with the Bruins. I think maybe max 30, 40 games over his career, but I've always heard of his name, Knipscher, Freddie. So
absolutely. I remember him playing.
Yeah.
And it'll be great to talk to him and relive that. And this is what it's great for us as fans. And like I said, I remember him playing, that we actually get to, talk to players that we've watched play, and players that we've not watched play that we've gotten to know. And this is a great time for us.
And now I will say, I don't know if we mentioned this off air or on air just now, but we are about a week, wouldn't say behind, a week ahead with episodes. Right. So what we recorded last week, we recorded this week, but on Wednesday, this is today's Monday, August 2nd, as we record this, we have another guest, Steve Seftel.
That's right.
If you have read the book Shattered Ice, is it right? But he wrote a book on that. He played a cup of coffee with the Washington Capitals, but played for the Lumberjacks, I believe, in the AHL for a couple of years. And Washington fans will know him, so that'll be a good one. So we'll probably have 2 episodes released this week, because we between today, Wednesday, next
Right,
Monday, we got
right.
3 guests. So, man, if you like our podcast, we got a bunch of episodes coming out, a bunch of guests. So,
And we want to say thank you. We do get messages from listeners, and they've all been positive, so that's a good thing.
yep,
But we also get some messages like we just talked about from UK,
yep,
talking about the Cloutier interview, and they appreciated that, and welcome one and all.
yep.
And maybe we'll get into Russia someday.
Yeah.
They speak English over there. I
Yeah,
think,
they
some of
do.
it.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of KHLers over
Yeah,
there.
we asked fun questions. So I'm sure they'd have fun with the stories we'll make them bring out. So it'll be a good time.
Great. All right. Well, we're going to end it here, guys. Thank you so much.
All right, and have a great day.